Good night, America. Welcome back. It's time for the Richard Fowler re-up. We're talking about Donald Trump's new tax plan. So I know it's a 9-page document. Yeah. You thought this president was complicated. Well, he tweets America, 140 characters. So you thought his tax plan would be 800 pages. Nope, it's 9. But here's what you need to know. Simple takeaways. Number 1, the plan will likely add $20 trillion to America's deficit. So $20 trillion to the debt. That's a lot of tax cuts spelled out, and there's almost no loopholes eliminated. So all the loopholes that we've talked about that are problematic, the corporate jet loophole, the yacht loophole, the loophole that allows IBM to pay 0 in taxes, those all will still be there. The rich will make out pretty well. The White House vows that poor people won't have to pay more than they do now, but there are a few specifics in the plan to ensure that to happen. Businesses, both small and large, get major tax cuts, so I guess fundamentally, like, it will benefit me, but the people who I advocate for will likely, take it in the chin. Most people will pay lower taxes, although it's unclear if the rich get bigger tax breaks than the middle class, and there's still a lot more details to figure out. So here's what we know. The wealthiest get a tax cut. They will pay only 35% of their income in taxes, down from 39.6%. At the moment, this rate applies to any income above about $418,000. It is unclear if Congress will tinker with the income level that the rate kicks in at. Trump says he would be fine with Congress raising taxes on the rich in the final plan, but he isn't requiring that they do it. The biggest tax break for the rich is the elimination of the estate tax. Some call it the death tax, that families pay currently when an asset like a house or a ranch worth, $5.49 million is passed down or to an heir after someone dies. Trump's plan will completely get rid of that tax. So what's in it for you? If you're a middle-class worker, you're a teacher, you're a nurse, you might be a social worker, a psychologist, you might be a small business owner. That's a giant question mark. There's still details that left to work out by Congress, but under the plan, America will have just 3 tax rates: 35%, 25%, and 12%. But we don't know yet which rate someone earning $50,000 or $80,000 will pay. What we do know is the standard deduction, which is currently at $6,350 for an individual and $12,700 for a married couple, will nearly double. That means that a married couple earning $24,000 or less, or an individual earning $12,000 or less, won't pay any taxes. But the plan also eliminates what is known as the additional standard deduction and the popular personal exemptions. Some filers may end up worse off than better off. The plan also promises a significant increase in the child tax credit. It's currently $1,000 per child, and a middle-class family can keep using the mortgage interest deduction as well as the tax rate for retirement savings and higher education. But it eliminates the state and local deduction, which is used by many high-tax states like New York and California. So here's some things that Donald Trump promised on the campaign trail. Remember the promise that you can file your taxes on a postcard? Well, that's an exaggeration. That ain't going to happen. And what about the working poor? Well, here's what a senior White House official told journalists on Tuesday. We are committed to making the tax code at least as progressive as a tax code could be. Translation: the poor should not end up paying more than they do now. But it's hard to check if that is true because we still don't have enough details. I.e., this plan is light on the facts and heavy on tax cuts for the wealthy. And what happens to big corporations? I guess you're wondering. Well, America, if you thought they were living high off the hog before, no need to worry. Corporations will continue to live high off the hog. The top tax rates at the moment are 35%, one of the highest rates among the developed nations. Most corporations don't pay that tax rate, but it is still a starting point. The Trump plan slashes the rate to 20%, just above average of major developing countries. But what makes this more complicated is the Trump tax plan does not eliminate any of the loopholes. And since we're not getting rid of any of the loopholes, if you lower the tax rate to 20%, take a company like IBM. IBM in the past, taxes have paid 0% in taxes. They've used loopholes to get out of paying taxes. So when you lower their tax rate to 20%, it's possible that a company like IBM could be getting a return. You see what I'm saying here? Because they're going to pay less in taxes and get more loopholes, use more loopholes to write off more things. The White House and Congress promises to close some loopholes that businesses currently enjoy, but no one is saying which ones they're closing quite yet. In fact, the only detail we have is more goodies for corporations, not less. The plan calls for businesses to be able to write off these investments, such as new factories that they open up right away instead of crediting them a little bit later each year, blah, 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 blah. Now, what's in it for small businesses? So if you're a small business owner, we are the Richard Media Company, which owns the Richard Fowler Show. We're a small business, so what's in it for us and a lot of small business owners who watch the Richard Fowler Show? So some small businesses will also get a tax cut under the plan. At the moment, many small business owners pay whatever their personal income tax rate is, so they end up paying as much as 39.9%. Actually, and I'll be real with you guys, I know my effective tax rate, and I'm not sure what Rich Webster's is in the 20, so we're someplace in the 20% area. Under the plan, most pass-through, which is a code for small businesses, would pay at the 25% rate. The exception is if a small business earns a very little income, they might be able to pay at the rate of 12%. So it would be nice for us to pay 12%. But here's the thing, and I think there's a trade-off here. And let me be very clear about this. So Ted Kennedy, the late great Ted Kennedy, always used to say, taxes are the price you pay for being an American and for doing the things you do as Americans. So today, coming to the studio, I traveled on the Metro, which is the train here in the District of Columbia. Rich, who will be sitting in the chair shortly, he drove on public roads to get here. Those roads are maintained by tax dollars, right? So when you eliminate and you start cutting taxes, there's a trade-off. So yes, there's more money going back in our pockets, but in exchange for what? Are we going to cut public education? Are we going to cut roads? Are we going to cut transportation? Are we going to cut the things that make our cities and our communities great in order for us to get more money in our pockets? I'm not sure if I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I'm willing to pay more if our government is doing more to make our communities better, safer, and stronger. And that's the conversation we've really got to have. If you look at the other developed countries all across the world, what you notice is they invest in their greatest resource, which is their people. And that's the investment we've got to make here in America. Donald Trump is the equation all wrong. They believe, Trump and Republicans like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell believe, if you cut the taxes for the wealthiest Americans, in some magical kabuki theater, the money's just going to trickle down to all the rest of us. But the reality is, that never happens. Because what the rich people do is they just keep the money. Right? And that's why the wealth gap is so large, because they keep it all, and then you have this big drop-off. You have a whole bunch of rich people up here, and then the rest of us. That doesn't work. So what we've got to do is find a way to level the playing field. And how you level the playing field is by those who have a little more pay a little more. And when they pay a little more, you use their payments to invest in those that don't have more. And then when you level the playing field, everybody does better, including the rich.